Hey gang, couple announcements. First of all, Nicole asks me to remind you that next Monday is a holiday, it's Martin Luther King Day, so there's no class. And after that, from Wednesday onwards, the next 4 lectures will be in the next room, which is 124 instead of 144. Somebody will be here to remind you, because this class and the other class look exactly the same. Okay, so. Eric Flores, who lectured last week, first introduced me to Ram Barankin about 2 years ago, and I've profited both as a colleague and a friend from his knowing him ever since then. He's a data scientist. He's taught data science at UMass Boston, and if he wants to give you any more biographical details, he will. I want to say that up to this point, we haven't really talked about gamers as much. PlayStation has something in the neighborhood of 150 million monthly users. And a lot of what our business depends on is knowing what they want, what they might want in the future, and kind of assessing that. And so Ram is on the business side that does that kind of thing. And so I think it's really kind of an interesting complement to everything we've done so far to have him give a talk on leveraging social media and generative AI to understand gamers. And without further ado, take it away.
Thanks, Mike. Hi, everyone. So excited to be here. It's the second year that we're doing it, and I was here last year as well, and it was fun. Hopefully, you all are as fun as the bunch that we had in the previous year. So I'll say up front, right, let's try to have it more as a discussion rather than me kind of like throwing stuff at you. I think it would be more interesting. And like Mike said, like, I feel like this, I may be wrong about it, I feel like this course is a lot about, how we develop games, the technology, things like that. And I come more from the business side. So I'm a data scientist for my entire career, and being a manager for the past 6 years in the field of more kind of like the data science or AI or machine learning that is connected to the business. So I work in an organization that it's called decision science. And what we do in decision science is one of two things. We help with behavioral modeling, which means we help the business to have growth in the fields of revenue and engagement. And whenever we talk about any metric that we use, it's always in this, two sense of, are we looking at revenue, are we looking at spend of users, or are we looking at engagement? And the other one that we do, and I'm not going to touch it today, but just that if anyone wants to talk about it after, is measurement. So a lot of things around the A/B testing or quasi-experiments, if anyone knows that. But as much as I love to talk about that part, that's not our topic today. So 2 important questions just to know who I'm dealing with here. So who's excited about the Patriots game on Sunday? No one? All right, so I guess you're not really local Bostonians yet. Okay. I lived in Boston 9 years, so I'm excited about anything sports Boston. And then kind of like what majors are you, where are you coming from? So I know we have business, we have mechanical engineering. What else do we have here?
AI decision-making.
AI decision-making. Is this more from like a technical perspective or?
It's a undergrad computer science.
Computer science, okay. Yeah. Design what? Sorry, to be more specific.
All kinds of industrial. Yeah.
Okay. You as well design? Okay. Your business, you know? Here?
Data science.
Data science, okay.
Design and profession.
Okay.
Computer science as well.
Computer science.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. All right, so we have kind of a combination of people who would like, would know stuff pretty deep, and people who don't. I'll say that up front. I like to talk a lot about the business side. happy to dive into anything technical here that we have. So please feel free to either like develop the conversation or ask me things that that may seem to some basic. I feel like coming from the business, what I can really teach you that that ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or anything online can teach you is more of like how decisions are being made in the business, how these things are applicable to the business. And these are things that are going to be very important for you, like, as long as you don't stay in academia, or even if you stay in academia, the application of things are really important. Okay, so let's jump for a second to decision making in the business. We have a lot of data that we're looking at, and I'm going to talk more about it, but there are certain data that can help us understand things maybe deeper, right? And this is social media. And we know that gamers are a very passionate, audience, and you can see things in the on social media. Sorry, this is probably what I should have asked first. How many people who consider themselves gamers we have here? Okay, so the majority. So are you all passionate about any specific games? Are you passionate about your games, or are you just playing casually?
Really passionate.
Really passionate, yeah. What games are you all playing?
I had to leave my PlayStation behind when I came here.
What did you play?
Really balanced. Many role-playing games.
Role playing?
Yeah, last year before I came, I was playing Baldur's Gate 3, Persona 5, and Black Myth Wukong.
Yeah. Any other games that you all care about?
Spider-Man's one of my favorites.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Before coming here, I used to be into those huge factory building games like Factorio, Satisfactory. But now my time only leaves me to play roguelikes, so I play things like Noida and Monster Train.
In Roblox? On Roblox, you said?
Roguelikes.
Oh, okay.
When you only have 20 minutes.
Yeah. Anyone else want to share their favorite game?
This game was like $2 or $3 on Steam. It's called Bro-tato, like potato but bro, and it's one of those arena survival shooters, kind of like Vampire Survivors, where you basically are a bullet hell yourself. You're just shooting out a zillion. I don't know if you're familiar with Vampire Survivors, but those games are a lot of fun, and usually only last for like 15 minutes. So it's good if you don't have a lot of time.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'm limited now with my son occupying my PS5, and I'm limited to playing with him, and we play NBA 2K and FIFA. He wants to play Fortnite all the time, but I wouldn't let him, since the time that we went to the beach with some friends, and he said, I wish I had my rifle with me. So this is when we said, no more Fortnite for you. But yeah. So gamers are really passionate, and these are some real stuff that we took off social media, right? People saying, this update ruined that game, and it's now broken, or anyone else thinks it's broken, and and I can't believe our emotion. The Last of Us Part 2. Anyone played The Last of Us Part 2? This is an awesome game, really good one. I heard the TV series is also good, but I haven't watched that. OMG, the graphics in the new Spider-Man is unreal, and then you get really angry about some other gamers ruining the experience for you. So why would we want to listen to our customers in general, right? And I say customer, I usually say users or gamers, but in general, when you want to understand your customers. So game features and game development. So I am not in the studio side, right? The studio side who develop games, but they do have their own social listening tools. And they get some ideas there, right? You can get ideas about some features that people want you to have, and in general, some ideas for developing new games. Platform features and platform development. When I say platform, do you understand what I mean? Yeah, so platform would be practically the console, right? The PS5. You go in, there's a home page, there's a store page, there's like, different places there. And this really, and I'm in the platform group, and in the platform, we really want to know what's the best user experience. What's going to make people engage, what's going to make people enjoy. There's bug reporting and fixes, and this is big. This is something that I would do way before we had like fancy LLMs, and it's practically even very easy to get some either from surveys or from social media, and you even can see what's like words that pop up that usually don't pop up, and then you can understand, oh, why everybody talking about this email? So there's a bug in an email that's everybody got an email that they shouldn't have. Why everybody are talking about something in the home screen today. So this is something that's really helpful to look at social media. Pre-release expectations. So for my team, this is probably the biggest use case. Okay, so we have a wonderful example. Anyone knows Helldivers 2? Okay, so if you don't, again, another game that I really recommend that you try on. It's kind of like a live service game. The type of like the free-to-play type of games. Kind of like I would say similar somehow to Fortnite, but not really. And what we love in our comedy about Helldivers 2 is that like it surprised us. It surprised us in a good way, right? There are like games that surprise us in a bad way, but this one surprises us in a really good way. And it's just like a, relatively low budget, no big expectation game, and we went out and became a huge hit. I guess not a big enough hit that you all hear about it, but it's within like the PlayStation hardcore gamers, they loved it. They still do. And a lot of the time, people in the business come to me, to my team as a team that can do forecast and ask us, hey, what's the next Helldivers 2? And it's very, very difficult to find the next Helldivers 2, especially if you only use our internal data. So this is where we try to get, social media to help us. We take all of these things, we put them as features in forecasting models, and they would help us, predict in general how games are going to perform in the market before they're released, and then what may or seeing directions of things that are going to surprise us. And this is important for two cases. Sorry. One of them is really for the business to know. You need to have a forecast. The other one is sometimes, we have like a holiday coming up, and we have certain, let's say, servers. So did Derek talk with them at all about streaming, or was it more about? Anyone talk to them about streaming, like streaming games? No. Okay. So when you stream a game, right? So let's say you're on your PS5 and you have PS Plus and you want to play a game. So you can either download it and play it on your console, or you can stream it, right? If you stream it, it means that it's practically your PS5 is connected to some flattened PS5 somewhere in a data center, and you actually play on that other one. I'm kind of like simplifying it, but sort of. And we need to understand whether like a lot of people this holiday, which is, we have heavy traffic anyhow, going to play Helldivers 2 all of a sudden. Otherwise, you may run out of like, the remote devices that people can play on that have this game loaded on them. This is an example, right? You want to understand your traffic. You want to understand how many people are going to play in general and on specific games, for load management. And for marketing, I think this is pretty obvious. We see a game that all of a sudden has a potential. We can push it a bit more. We can scale down on games that, not necessarily it's going to help along these lines. And there are several ways to listen to customers. Social media is only one tool, and the reason I'm talking about this tool today is because I think it's interesting and there's like AI applications to it. But there are other tools that can help us with that. So surveys. So if you played on PS5 before, I think you probably at some point got a little survey there, right? Like kind of like, you know, just a general satisfaction about some feature that you just used. And if you answer to that, and if you answer in a negative way, then you're going to get an email to follow up on that, which you will be asked to provide some, you know, more feedback that you understand what's wrong there. This is a very valuable piece of information for us. But it's a bit problematic. Can anyone think about why this is problematic? Why like surveys are like, okay, they're a good tool, but not ideal, not perfect. Yeah.
People are more likely to feel bad if they have something to complain about, so you can get a very biased, closed view of the game.
Yeah, you'll get it a lot of the times very, very negative, or sometimes even very positive, and not the middle. Yeah, that's one of them.
People are also pretty bad at self-reporting generally, like even if you give them a scale to rate stuff on, it can only ever be somewhat directionally accurate, but it's hard to really like quantify certain sentiments.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, it's self-reporting, right? It's not necessarily objective. Anything else? Anyone heard the term selection bias? So, selection bias would mean that like we will have in this term like very specific people would answer surveys, right? And more than that, the specific people will actually bother to open that email that we will send them and then fill out what we want. So you don't really get an objective picture of the world. That's the one part of it. The other part of it is that the sample size is very small, right? So again, from the reason I told you before, you're not going to get like everybody who played the game to answer a survey every time, and you're not going to bother people with, you know, having them a pop-up after every time they use the feature. So the sample size will be very, very small. There's ad hoc analysis, which is an amazing tool, right? So we actually have, for example, we have like a UX research department. They sit down with people, very deep, you know, questionnaires, and they sit down and ask questions, and you know, and we take time with each one of you to listen what you have to say. What are the issues here? So you get a deep answers about stuff, but what do you think the issues here would be? Yeah.
Small sample size again, right?
Very small sample size. It's even smaller than before, right? Like you actually need our people to sit down with people. And the same thing with selection bias, right? Who would be the people you can actually get to come to the office, sit with you, you know, and do this kind of stuff. Data indication. So this is the thing we use most. This is like my team would know the in and out of any data that we have and what do we have, any data that we have about our users or about their interaction with our platform, what do we do. This thing I can talk about forever. You know, we get how many clicks through do we have, how many purchases, how many wish lists someone put on a game, and pre-orders and orders and gameplay hours about each game on genre and what they do. This is great. What's the limitation of it? Sure.
Do those indication, those metrics, are they baked into the SDK of the platform? So no matter what the developer do, you always get that data, or do they have to like opt in? And what is the incentive for developer to opt into exposing that data?
So I don't know what happens in the games, okay? If they're not our games. I know what happened until they go to the game, or what they do in the game. Okay, does this answer it? So, you know, this tells me a lot, like, you know, about what people are doing, but it doesn't tell me anything about why. Like, it doesn't give me like, okay, people wish list like crazy this game all of a sudden. But why? Why Helldivers 2 all of a sudden get so many more wish lists or pre-orders than I could imagine? And this is where, where surveys or ad hoc studies can answer that. But then if you go to social media has it all, right? Because it's usually large scale. You get a large sample size. There is a bit of a selection bias, but not as crazy as before. Like most people use social media. And it also tells me why. I know there are a lot of other limitations, and we're going to talk more about them, but that's in general. Having said that, I just want to clarify that the data that helps my team most to forecast, to predict, to help the business with, with retention and engagement and things like that, it will be kind of like the third category there. And these indications that we get, objective data, and when you deals with numbers, that's the best one that we have. But why social media? So we have a lot of data. It's low cost in some cases. And it's unbiased in aggregate. And I say sort of, I'll say more, but like if you think about it, let's take a game like, I don't know, Fortnite, EAFC. Okay, like the big game. EAFC, it's FIFA, if anyone who doesn't know, for the past 2 or 3 years. Or NBA 2K, my favorite. There's a lot of traffic, a lot of conversation about these games, and in aggregate, you're probably gonna get it right. Why not social media? We're dealing with unstructured data, which is unstructured also in different ways, right? It's text, and every platform has its own way of having, posts or comments or likes or upvotes or things like that. It's high cost to gather to certain platforms, and it's becoming worse, I would say. So Twitter was easy to get data. Now X is difficult to get data, for example. High cost to analyze. You need to process all of this stuff, and I'm going to go over like the data processing part of things, but it's not an easy thing to do, and it is biased to some degree, right? First of all, there are a lot of bias in social media. I don't know if in gaming as much as in other places, but there are people with, not just honest interest in what you do. So up until a couple of years ago, analyzing text in general was a very difficult task. And LLMs is a huge game changer for social media world. And as a leader in the data science field, when I try to use social media, I get a lot of rejections, a lot of people who kind of like, a lot of resentment, people who they don't want to deal with social media. And the reason, in my opinion, is historical. Because before we had LLMs, you couldn't get much out of social media unless you actually go and read through things. And the biggest thing is sentiment analysis. So sentiment analysis was almost a curse in my world. Like in the analytics, data science world, people are like, oh, sentiment is stupid. You can't get sentiment. Because the way we used to do sentiment was to try to sum up the very simplification of it, but like try to sum up the good things and bad things, and then things like that, right? This game is the shit. Is something that you will not, it would be like a negative sentiment, okay? Or I'm the worst at this game, I can't stop playing. This is the worst, and this is actually a positive thing, right? But if you put it into an LLM now, it would know to tell. It would know that the first one is negative and the second one, is positive. And when we started this project, like I'm going to talk about like the social listening project, and I showed it to one of my leaders, and I tried to convince him, hey, this is something we can do. He said, sentiment. So, and I'm saying, no, LLMs can do it now. So he took out his phone, and this is exactly what he wrote on ChatGPT on the app. You know, and he got that positive sentiment, and this is when I could move forward this project. So that's a game changer. It's a huge game changer. Summarization, same thing. So summarization used to know, I think none of you used like old-fashioned NLP. Anyone used here NLP, like natural language processing before LLMs? Oh, you're missing a whole world of fun. But like, so we did some summarization like before in another company that I work with. So summarization was like somehow a model that gives you a few sentences taken from like, from whatever text you give it. It wouldn't really be a summary. Now you can get a summary, and you just don't understand how much like we lived in a stone age until 3 years ago. It's exactly like that. So this is also, it's great because this is, I can actually know why. I know why people hate this game. I know why people love this game without me reading through, text and text of things. We can filter much better. So I want to know whether this post talks about Spider-Man, the movie, the game, the costume, the bar next door that is apparently called Spider-Man, right? So this really helps with that, and we use it. So I'm going to show you our filtering, but the step that I think I don't mention in the next slides is that after I filter for the games that I want to look at, I ask the LLM, my first question is this really about Spider-Man 2, the game? And then I can filter out whatever is not relevant. And auto-validation, we can validate, it can validate itself, we can validate LLMs with other LLMs, these things that really help you to do things that we just couldn't do before, or we needed a poor intern to go manually and do. So in practice, social listening is a huge thing. It's a huge market. We have many vendors that offer social listening tools. There's companies, the Sprinkler, Meltwater, that they give you like these really nice UIs with all the data that you need, and from the different all the different social media platforms, and it's a huge market, right? This is kind of like the projections of where this social media market is going. And we are using also vendors at PlayStation, and they have some advantages to use the vendor. So if any of you that works on a startup, or you have your company and you want to think about whether do I want to work with a vendor. So the advantages is you have an API that's set up with all the social media platforms. It's really helpful. And this is ready for you out of the box. They have like, oh, put PlayStation in, no problem. We have everything. We already got it for you, and they put it up for you. These companies have the social media expertise. They speak social media. They know everything. You can talk about like what's relevant, what's not, which platforms to go to, where to go there, and they have a really impressive UI. Now, for me as a data scientist, like I want an API, I don't want a UI, and some of them have the API, but like for business people or for analysts that just want to see what they have really, really good UIs, these companies. The disadvantages, they are very expensive. So even for a big company like us, getting another what they call seat, it's just another license for another user, it's very, very expensive, and a lot of teams, a lot of people want to use, social media, wants to know what's going on. This is not just for game, for everything that we do, right? Like, we have a new controller coming out. Are people talking about it? Are people excited about it? Like everything that we do, we want to see what people are saying, and having like a seat for everyone in the organization that wants to, to look at social media is very expensive. And unnecessary, right? Like they want to look at one small case. And They don't have the domain expertise, these like specific, vendors. They know social media, they don't know gaming, right? And then data integration. And like I said, this is big for us, right? So, because I never use just social media data for our purposes. I always take it together with our internal data and what we want to understand. And this is something that I can do if I have the data in my hand. And I would say that in general, a combination of a vendor and your own capabilities probably work for most companies, and I think that most big companies do that. So I want to talk about what it takes now to create kind of like your own pipeline for incorporating social media to understand the users, the product, the gamers. So we first define the business question, which is, you think about it, yeah, I want to get the data, I want to play the data, I want to work on the model, but this is super important. You need to understand what you're working on. And if you're going to work for a company after as data scientists or engineers or whatever, these are things that you always need to keep in mind. And these are the most successful technical people in the company. They should have the technical expertise, but they should also understand, unless you're in pure research, you should understand what's my business problem. What am I trying to solve? And a lot of people forget that. So please keep this in mind. This is really important for data scientists and it all. And then you identify the relevant data. So I'll talk about it a bit later, but not all products will have the data in the same places. You set up the pipeline to import it, usually through an API, if you want to make it scalable. If it's one-time POC or anything like that, you can download some CSV from somewhere just to see how it goes. And then probably the two most important things here is to filter to the relevant data. So I would say that in general in machine learning, right? Like we can work a model, I don't know, for months, try to make the model better. And especially from a business perspective. But at the end of the day, what's going to matter is the data, whether you have the relevant data and whether you engineer the data in a way that really helps you, really is reliable and relevant for your question, for your business case. So we filter the relevant data, we engineer it, we run it through an LLM, and we run it a few times in our case. We validate it, which is important. And there's this part that I'm going to talk more about, but present it to the stakeholders. Stakeholders are the people who are interested in the data, interested in the business case. It's relevant for them, and you want to do it in a way that they will understand. And then be ready to support decision making. I'm going to go quickly over each one of those, but yeah.
Yeah, just on that aspect of running tasks through an LLM, you mentioned shortcomings of some of the social listening tools is that they aren't really domain specific, they don't understand your company super well. So I'm curious how you tune LLMs to really understand the broader context of your domain and company. I doubt it's just like saying to ChatGPT, I'm Sony, here's like held out to social media data, how's this going to be useful for our next season pass?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I would say that, I'm going to talk about it a bit later, but I would say that I'm not going into fine-tuning models here. And in this use case, I don't think it's needed. It may have been relevant when I gave that same talk a year ago, but I think now the context window is so big that you can give all of the context in your prompt. At least for these use cases, okay? We are not fine-tuning any models. We are not retraining our own models. Although there are teams that do that. I think. Do you know of these teams, Mike, that do this kind of stuff? I heard of teams that do this at Sony. We are not doing that, okay? But I am going to talk about how do we prompt it the right way, okay? All right. So let's talk about the work pipeline. So defining the business question, okay? So these are all different business questions that we can ask when looking at social media data or in general. Okay, so what is the sentiment around our new product? Are people excited about this upcoming game? What do people think about our competitor, right? Competitor analysis is also a big thing, right? We want to know, like, hey, what's going on in Xbox? Do they have this new service? Do people like it or not? Or what are they saying? What issues do users discuss in relation to our platform? Right? Well, it's a very general question. What are the things on the mind of people who use PS5 now or PS4? Is there a specific issue with our platform regarding a certain game that we don't see with our competitors? So this is a real use case, right? So like, you know, we have games that are cross-platform, right? FIFA, all right? You can play it, you know, on a PlayStation, on an Xbox, even I think you can even play it on a Nintendo Switch, right? I know you can play NBA 2K on a Nintendo Switch, right? These are all cross-platform. Do we have maybe a specific thing in our platform that is different? Is the sentiment different on our platform than others? Then we may have something that is a problem specific for our platform that we need to solve. Are there any interesting ideas for games or feature, right? We talked about it, you know, getting ideas. And are there any unknown bugs? Again, something we talked about. And then identify the relevant data. Now, this is a critical step. You know, it doesn't seem like as fun or as interesting as, you know, as running the LLM or tweaking the model, but this is very important. Are we talking about something that is platform specific? Is it like a niche game, an indie game that we want to look at, that, you know, that we'll see that in a certain thing? And then if we look at a specific platform, is there a specific place for that? And then, like, intentionally I put it my favorite game, NBA 2K from the previous year. I know we don't have sports fans here this year. We did have some in the previous, but you know, this is Jason Tatum. That's the hero here if you don't know him, especially after Tom Brady left. You know, this is what we got left from our main character of sports here. The interesting thing about the sports game, so NBA 2K, is that this is a place that if you want to learn about what people think about it, you don't necessarily go to the gaming, let's say, subreddits, right? If you look at Reddit, you're going to go to the sports one. There's so much discussion on the sports fan, just about like what grade does a player get on NBA 2K, because this is going to be related to their, you know, to their performance on the game. And people get angry, yeah? Jason Tatum got a 92, but Jaylen Brown got an 89. That's not fair, you know? Things like that. So if I'm going to do a study about NBA 2K, I'm probably going to go to sport and I'm not going to go to gaming. Or I'm going to do both. And then how difficult, costly it would be to get the data. You know, there's cost benefit about getting data from platforms. Sometimes I got what I want from Reddit, which is free. And sometimes I need much more than that. And then, you know, how much data do you want? And this is an interesting one because let's look at Reddit, right? Because Reddit is an easy example. By the way, I use a lot of Reddit because Reddit is very easy. There's a lot of data there. It's cheap, and you know, it's free to get it, and it's easy to understand it, and a lot of people use it. So this is how it goes with Reddit, right? So you go to a subreddit. There's a subreddit called PS5, a subreddit called gaming. There's a subreddit for almost each game. And you go there and you start getting the data. But then you look at the data and look how nested it is. So anyone can comment to a comment, and there's a comment to a comment to a comment. And sometimes you get like these two idiots having an argument, and then you have like 100 levels of comments there that you really don't want in your data. So when you engineer the data, you need to realize from how many levels it would consider to be noise. And it's not a trivial thing to know, because sometimes there are important discussions there. But I think that we limit it to about 5, but it's a bit arbitrary, but you need to look at when it's becoming noise. So setting up the pipeline, right? These are several steps that you do. You probably want to get data every day, right? You don't want to just get data until now unless you're doing a one-off thing. So you schedule a task, and I don't want to go too much into technical details, right? But you can use tools like, we use either Databricks or Airflow. You have tools that you can kind of like set up for a daily run of code. You import it through API, like I said, and you save it in a database. We use Snowflake, save all of the data there. We process the data, do some data engineering, and we also summarize it using LLMs, and then we put it again in a database. And the reason we put a database is that we can reuse it, but the other teams can also reuse it. And this is what they do. They don't just use our tools, they sometimes just get the data that we already got and use it for other use cases. And this is something that is important when you work, for a big company. That's another business value that you give. You say, I'm not only solving my issue, I'm also helping others when they want to access this data, and people always want to access social media data. They already have summarization stored there that they can use because we need to use them anyhow. So if anyone want to is there a project like last year's? It's like end of class project. So anyone wants to do the project around that, I can share it after. I include some ways to get the data through API. I would say this is maybe a bit outdated, but it's probably easy even to just copy this and ask ChatGPT or Gemini to create a new one for you. But it could help you. If you do a one-off thing, I would even just get a CSV with the data and just run it, and a lot of the times getting this is free. So filtering the relevant data. So we want to know if we're looking to a specific product or a specific topic, or we want to know what people think about the new controller or about Spider-Man 2, or in general about NBA, about the 2K franchise. And we can use classic NLP for this part, or the LLM entirely, and I will show what it means to use classic NLP. I'm not going to go into vector database, but this is something that we started working on, but as context window kept extending, so you can practically paste everything into a prompt, we kind of stopped working about the vector database part.
So can I
Sure.
I'm really curious, how might vector database help with the filtering task?
With the filtering, so let me think about how we want to do it, because we stopped doing it, so I need to refresh my memory. But in general, I feel like there was a point in time when we wanted to have each post in a database in a way that whenever you're looking for a specific topic, you can find it easily.
So do you first tag it with the topics and then use vector to find similarity between the
Right. So it's very similar to what I'm going to describe now, but yeah, in general, what you're going to do is you're going to have the LLM tagging it, right? Yeah. So again, you mentioned no one worked with classic NLP here. Let me tell you how things used to work. All right. Anyone? I assume anyone heard of BERT here or didn't hear about BERT? Did you hear about BERT, the model? Well, you have. Okay. So I'm going to talk about NLP of maybe 5 years ago, I would say. We used to have a model called Word2Vec. Anyone knows Word2Vec? Okay, I'm going to simplify this a little bit. What Word2Vec does, it's a neural network that you give it, let's say, a word, and you want to find, there are two types. One of them is you give it a word and you want to know the context around that word, or you give it the context and you want to find out the word in it, okay? So think about a deep learning model or a neural network that the input would be, let's take the first case, would be the surrounding of a word, and the output would be the word itself. So we try to train this kind of a neural network. And while you do it, you create a vector space. So you create all the different weights there of the deep learning model. And then you don't care about the model anymore. All you care about is that vector space that was created. And then I want to know, it's exactly kind of like the question that you just asked me, right? I want to know like, what's the topic and what's the post? I want to take a query, and I want to take the post that I have, like the social media data, and I want to see whether they match or not. So what I do, I'm taking like the embeddings, right? I'm translating these words into numbers, and then I'm taking the cosine similarity of those. I want to know how much the embeddings of the query are close to the embedding of that specific post. And this way, I would filter, or I will first give this cosine similarity to everyone, and then I will filter, I would say, for example, let's say that everything above 0.8 of cosine similarity means that they are related to this specific topic. These are related to Spider-Man 2. These are related to a game. These are related to what I'm looking for. So Word2Vec, since then we had some better models that we can still use. But in general, you can go to Hugging Face or OpenAI, and you can download that vector space, that embedding space that we talked about before. You don't actually need to retrain a model. And then you can very easily convert the query and the text that you have, convert it into numbers, and then find this cosine similarity and find what you want. Now, you can do the same thing using an LLM, right? I can just run it through an LLM and ask them, is this talking about Spider-Man 2 or is not? Is it talking about like, why won't I do that? What's the problem with doing that? Anyone think of why would I not just run like every topic I have through an LLM? Exactly, it's too slow and too expensive. This is very fast and very cheap, okay? I'm downloading the model, already existing one. I'm just running it, and I can run at the same time all the topics that I want to, and voila, I have what I need. But what's the advantage of an LLM in this case would be? LLM would be more accurate. So LLM would know much better than this. But what we do is when we go to the prompt, and we're going to prompt, that's our next stage, the first question that we ask in the prompt, is this post really talking about Spider-Man 2, the game? Right? So we would filter it first. All of these were like, posts that we think, that we suspect that they are talking about Spider-Man 2. I just realized the time. And we get, and then we run it through the LLM to validate, to verify that we actually what we're talking about. All right, I'm gonna try to speed a bit because we need to be done in 5 minutes. No, I can be a bit over. Okay, I'll try because I want to respect your time. I'll try to do it as fast as I can. I know it's a Friday afternoon. Okay, so prompt engineering. I hate to call it engineering. I think it's a bad word for it. But like, you need to walk that prompt, and this is very important. And every model, the prompt will work a little bit different. And this in two terms: A, do I get what I want in terms of content? B, do I get what I want in terms of the format that I want? Because I want the JSON back, so we can easily put it into a table. Sometimes, an LLM would work 1,000 times give you the JSON, and 1,001 it won't give you the JSON the correct way for unknown reasons. So you need to work and make sure that you get what you want in the way that you want it. And sometimes you would work with even 2 different LLMs. One of them give you good answer, one of them give you the format. So sometimes you just have one validate and confirm the other. And then there are models that are more expensive than others. You know, there's Llama, which would be cheaper, and there's the OpenAI ones, which would be more expensive. And you know, these are things that you need to be concerned of when you work for a business. This is in general about, like, you know, how to work with the LLM prompts. I have to say that, like, I feel like we got to a point in time that people know how to work, you know, how to work prompts. But in general, you know, all the best practice that you can think of. What's your specific use case? Some examples. What do you want in return? Be very precise about what you want to do, and you know, and get the right format at the end. Right. So this is how you do it. Right. You provide the data. You know, this is the text. This is the platform I got it for. This is the timestamp. This is just an example of what you want to get. You specify what do you want as an output, both in terms of you know, content, metadata, and you know, the format, and then you iterate until you get what you want. And getting what you want once is not enough. You make sure that over and over you get what you want. You know, you can validate the results, for example, of a sentiment is pretty easy, right? Because this is a numerical value. We ask him, give us -1, 0, or 1, and then we first run a sanity check, right? Okay, this is actually you know, a -1. This is not, you know, or for example, oh, I know that Helldivers did really well, but actually I got like a negative average, you know, on the sentiment. Then we know that something is bad. And then you use another LLM to validate your results. And sometimes you need to manually do things. And I have to say, we did have some interns that actually went one by one and validated what we have. And then, you know, with the confusion metrics like this, you can kind of like see how good your you know, your work is here, or the LLM work is. It's not easy. It's not easy because it's not always obvious whether something, what's the sentiment of a post. Some of them are obvious, some of them are mixed, some of them are like, I'm not sure. And when you talk about summarization, that's really difficult, right? When you want to validate it, you got what you need, and you actually need to go one by one and to have an intern do it. And you want to have another LLM that does that, and to make sure that you got the right things there. I'm almost done. This is the final slide, and this is kind of like a thing that I will re-emphasize how important it is. You can do all the best engineering, data science, machine learning, AI, whatever you want to call it, work. You have like world class. You can win a Nobel Prize on it if you are outside, but you need to convey this in a way that this actually makes a difference. And this is where a lot of technical people fall. The fact that your model is amazing doesn't worth anything if no one takes action according to that. And to convince business people to rely on your model, it's not always an easy thing to do. You need to really think about whether what you do is a one-time thing that you're going to send, or you're going to say, oh, there's actually a dashboard that I created for you that you can play with the data, and you play with the data and play with the things, you know, and see for yourself. Again, is it a one-man thing, or you're going to say, okay, and we can scale it up. This is already automated or ready to be automated. Always remember to connect it back to the business problem. Again, something that, you know, seems very trivial, but a lot of people forget. So what's the application? What's the, okay, you got, oh yeah, you know that people love Helldivers too. So what? What it is connected to? Who asked the question? Who's the right product manager that would now take this and, you know, run forward with it and, you know, boost marketing now to make this even like bigger? And always be prepared, you know, to answer the follow-up questions and you know, say, okay, there are other data sources that we need to work with. I think this is all I have. So A, I'm happy to take questions now. B, Mike, we talked about maybe beer later, whoever wants to join us.
State Park at 5:30.
State Park, 5 or 5:30, we'll be, yeah, we'll be probably by 5. So anyone wants to join us, very much welcome to talk more. I'm staying here, and if you want to ask questions now, please do. But otherwise, thank you.
You want to run the microphone?
If anyone has any questions.
I was just curious. So, like, let's say, for example, you parsed your data, and like let's say you had an update patch for a game, and then the social media data is like half split exactly. Like half of the people like it, half of the people don't like this new update. What do you kind of do at that point? Is there more data that you can pull out to further understand that split?
Yeah. This is where like I don't just rely on social media data. I would rely much more on engagement data, right? Like let's say that we had a patch, we had an update, and people stopped playing, or reduced the gameplay, or increased the gameplay, or didn't do anything. It's just the same. This would be a much better indicator. And I would say it's the other way around. Like if I would say a decrease in engagement, this is where I would go to social media and try to understand why is there a decrease in engagement, what people don't like there.
Yeah, okay. And I guess my follow-up on this is like, so I know you were talking about presenting your data in such a way that, the stakeholders, understand it and act on it, right? I think that's kind of probably true in any industry, right? So I guess if you could speak a little bit more about how to story tell with your data.
Oh, wow, yeah, that's an entire class, right? Like the storytelling. I have to say it's not easy. It's difficult even for me today, right? It was always difficult as a data scientist because our job is very technical, right? And there's a lot of technical assumptions going in there, and we trust the data more than anyone else. Yeah. But this is when you want to get trust, a lot of the time is about explaining where the data come from. What are we doing in a very high level? You never want to go into deeper. Oh, I did like a logistic regression here, and we also tried random forest and a neural network. No one wants to hear that, right? They just want to look. We tried different approaches. We got similar results. We really worked the data. We made sure that everything is validated and good. And these are the indications that we see. And then graphics obviously always help, but that's like an entire thing on its own. I think the most important thing is like to make sure that you always say like show that you had a business problem in your mind, right? And how reliable the data is. And by the way, this is what's true, and this is what I believe. Like once you get the data and you can play with all the different modeling approaches that you get. I don't know, let's say that I have forecasting problem, right? And I got all the data and I try to solve it with logistic regression, right? And then I move to do some more sophisticated methods. They're not going to perform much better. They can perform better. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do like some hyperparameters grid search, right? And I'm going to do like try this and that. But at the end of the day, it's not going to change a lot. What's going to change is whether I'm going to get better data, I'm going to engineer the data in a different way. This is what's going to give me a real boost. And this is tying it back to the business to say, hey, we worked this data, we got this relevant data, we got the right data here, and validated it 1,000 times. And this, like, we see different sources that show the same indication.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess even more follow-up. So I know a lot of the stakeholders that you would probably talk to have their heads wrapped around maybe the financial aspect of things, right?
The what, sorry?
Financials.
Yep.
So how do you translate the data into dollars so that, they're more inclined?
You're asking really good questions, which is like the kind of the essence of that connection. It's really are like that. Like I can tell you that I remember myself as a young data scientist, like just starting, when I was asked to put some money value on stuff. And you can't put money. There's no way you can put the confidence intervals would just be too high.
Right.
You need to find a way to do it, and you need to sometimes, I won't say cut corners, but like I would say that like if I would teach a statistics class or data science class and someone would tell me, let's do this, I would say, oh, no, you're not allowed to. But if you are not going to do it in a way that makes sense according to the data, someone is going to do it in a way that doesn't make sense at all, right? So you need to find a way and find a bit of creative ways to tie them together. Sometimes it's very obvious, right? Like, we see an incremental value lift here, this is it. Sometimes you just need to have a ballpark, if we have 1,000 people doing this, and I make a strong assumption is we're going to get 100,000 more people joining because of that, then this is what we expect to see.
Okay, makes sense. And then lastly is, why are you a Patriots fan?
I lived in Boston 9 years, so I'm like everything, sports Boston. So yeah, I feel at home here, especially because of that, right? So yeah.
I'm a big time Steelers fan.
Oh, okay. So,
I don't like the Patriots.
that's fair. That's fair.
Hey, Ram.
Hey.
I think in the last-ish slide you talked about like how sometimes all of this turns into maybe static presentations or dynamic dashboards. Sometimes it's a once-off exercise versus something that's like iterative. Just curious, like in the actual state of the projects you run at Sony, is it like, always on, there's data always flowing through it, at any point you can see a dashboard to answer these business questions that you've been trying to answer, or is it often like ad hoc projects and explorations where you're designing this whole pipeline and producing like one artifact at the end?
This very much depends on the team and the case, right? I would say that my team moved along the years from being a team that is very heavily doing like long-term data products that people would use that are both like kind of like stored in a database and have some dashboards, to doing more of like ad hoc stuff. But I would say that like everything that we do, we try to make it last. Like, let's say, okay, we answered this answer now, we will probably need to answer this next year or another time. So let's make sure that we have the pipeline now in place to answer this quickly. Whether it's going to be in a dashboard or one-time thing, that's very much depends on like, who asks the question and what do they need it for.
Another question is there any data that you, like, even with all the available platforms and channels, still can't get on players, or data you wish you could get?
Oh, so much. I'd say that I think that there are very strong laws in place, especially in Europe and California, that like you can collect certain data. And I think that this is my personal opinion, that we as a company, we are very, very respectful of our customers compared with other companies that that really collect a lot of things. Now, so I would say that, do I want to get the more data on them? So I don't want to get more data because I really think we should respect the privacy of of our customers. For modeling, of course, give me everything. Give me what you ate today. Give me how old are you? How long ago were you playing? Everything in there, right? That would be great. But I feel like we do have enough data as a business to make good decisions, to make things better for the players, to make the experience better, to make better games, to make a better platform. So, does this answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Okay. I guess final follow-up is just like, if there's lots of data right now and it's not really, the models are getting better and stuff, but again, data sometimes is better than better architectures. Like, do you think that you've got everything you need right now to answer most of your most pressing business questions, or is there something that like you wish you could, snap your finger and have today?
Yeah, look, the gaming business and the platform gaming business is very complicated. I'll give you an example, right? So let's say you're at Netflix, right, or any other streamer. You have one metric, like that is not really. You have a lot, but like one metric that covers is like engagement, right? Engagement or retention, right? How much people are there. We have engagement. We have spend, how much people are spending, and then we have these different levels. And I give an example. Like our team does like a walk with the store recommendations, right? If you go into the PlayStation Store, then you have like these like different strengths or different recommendations you have. So we have machine learning algorithms that our team help create or measure that recommend you what game to play. Now let's think about what's the metric that I want to optimize to. What would you think would be the metric that I want to optimize? Like when I recommend you a game. What would be the things that I want to optimize for? For me as a business and for you as a customer.
Yeah. Well, I actually want someone to A, buy something, but B, play enough of it that they want to keep playing on the platform and buy the next game after that. So not ask them to charge too much upfront for a game that they'll drop after a few hours and then get dissatisfied with the overall PlayStation experience for.
Right. So you have the engagement versus spend there. But even as a business in spend, okay? So in general, I would say, hey, why don't I sell you the most expensive game, right? Like, let me sell you like a full game, $65, $100. I'd send you the full game and you play it. But is this the thing that we're making most money of? Like one of the most successful things that we have on our platform is Fortnite. How much Fortnite does cost? Do you know on the store?
It's free.
It's free. It's zero. But we're going to make money long term there. So then you start thinking about things like lifetime value of a customer.
Yeah. But
lifetime value of a customer, at this point in time, you don't know that, right? It's a forecast. It's not a real one. I know $65 that he's going to spend. I know that right now. I don't know the lifetime value. This is a forecast that I need to get accurate
the
enough.
expected net present value of lifetime customer value.
Yeah. I mean, you want to give me data? Give me this, right? Give me lifetime value and accurate forecast at the point of sale, and this is the best thing I could get. But that's difficult. It's difficult because it's a difficult model to build, and it's difficult to get enough data, especially new users, but in general, it's difficult to get enough data at any point in time to get that exact, that exact value.